Welcome to the final game of Day 2 of the 2018 Eastern Canadian Rugby Championships. I'm Scott Squires, and it's U18 men's action. It's PEI in the center of your screen, getting ready to kick off to the Nova Scotia Keltics. PEI, as you can see, going left to right on your screen, wearing the white and green hoops on their kit. And the Keltics, which you'll see in a moment, are going right to left. They're wearing their navy dark blue with the gold and white, and we are underway. Final game of the day, an Atlantic Canadian battle. It's PEI, it's Nova Scotia, the Abbeys, and the Keltics, and we're off. So right away, the Keltics will look to kick this out for touch. And it looks like from here, you can just see across the sideline for a moment. I think a number of the women's players from Prince Edward Island over on the sideline with the PEI men for a little bit of moral support. That's nice to see. If you're just joining us, we have had quite the adventurous day here weather-wise. And there's a good run and a big tackle. Physical play early on. Just to finish that thought, we had weather delay as the skies opened up, thunder and lightning came. They cleared all the fields, got everybody into safety. We had to tear down all our equipment. There was about an hour delay, but we are back. Final game of the day, and we are glad that you are with us. Quick pass now as PEI looks to get some positive gains here. Grant McAdam with a nice run for PEI. McAdam. Nova Scotia backs away. PEI moves it off the ground. Blake Jerkowski got a nice run there. Now PEI will put the little kick forward. That was Jordan Arsenault with the nice play, but it's recovered well as Nova Scotia got there. Jordan Arsenault, keep an eye on him, the scrum half, number 9 for PEI. He's quick, he's shifty, and every now and then you'll see him pull a play like that out of his back pocket. To the outside, this is Josh Murray. Murray tries to find space down the sideline on the opposite side of where we're located here, which I like to call the far side of the field. PEI again. One pass, two passes. There's 3. Nice little move to the inside. Little juke move. Quick pass. Another one had an opening in the corner. And there it is. All kinds of players touching the ball here for PEI. But Nova Scotia, great recovery on defense. Good job to get in there and intercept that ball. PEI looked to be threatening. It seemed about 6 or 7 players along the line got a touch as they moved that ball from left to right. And they had an opening actually over on the wing. And they tried to get the ball to number 7, Sal Frag. And Frag couldn't get into the end zone where he was trying to. And a good job again, Nova Scotia regrouped, got back on the line defensively, and were able to intercept that ball and turn it over. And just off to my right, I see the coach of the Canadian U20 squad. They'll be playing on Saturday at the Wanderers grounds. Jack Hanratty, of course, so very heavily involved with Rugby Nova Scotia. Nice to have Jack alongside. We'll get him a headset here, and we'll get him set up, and we'll have a chat with him in just a sec. It's a good thing I know my way around the technical side of the game. How you doing, Jack?
Great. This is nice to be sitting down watching some rugby.
You don't get to relax all that often when you're around rugby, do you? You're usually a little more heavily involved.
This is my only couple of minutes, I think, to watch some of the underage games, so it's nice to come down and have a watch.
So this Celtic squad taking on PEI as we see this scrum just to our right. And again, PEI move it quickly. This is Newberry for PEI. They've been knocking on the door here for the last few minutes. Nova Scotia bending but not breaking right now, very close to the line. And again, Nova Scotia stops the advance of PEI. So PEI's coming, Jack, but your Keltics won't let them in.
Yeah, I have to say it's an excellent PEI side. I've seen them a good few times this year, and I think they're really knocking on the door to try and get into those playoff games.
So we've got another scrum just outside the 5-meter line, it looks like.
Yeah, just basically what happened was there was a maul just before the line, which actually helps the Keltics get rid.
So Nova Scotia will use the kicking game. That's a great boot. That's going to be right on the line, and it just goes out for touch. That almost bounced the other way and stayed in, and hovering around, thinking he might get a look at that ball, was number 11, Stephen Smallwood, for the Abbeys from PEI. So they'll have a line out just to our left.
I think Alex Otto will be incredibly pleased with that kick. It was an excellent relieving kick. You wouldn't see that in many of the age grades, clearing right from your own line and getting it all the way down here.
Yeah, that was a great kick indeed. And PEI recovers. There's a quick up there from Arsenault for Prince Edward Island. The ruck forms. PEI trying to get it out of there, and they do. That's Arsenault again. The scrum half for PEI, usually in the middle of everything. Here he is now with a quick pass. Coming over to the wing. Nice little offload just in the nick of time. And then that pass goes awry. Good pressure by the defense of Nova Scotia. Forced the ball carrier to try to pass it off to Max McCarville. But again, you see Nova Scotia recovering quickly. So they'll have a line out, set piece. Just about 5 meters toward the midfield stripe from the 22-meter mark.
Yeah, basically it was a forward pass into touch there from PEI, so they got the choice if they want to scrum or line out, but I think they might regret the choice because it'll now be after a poor throw here from the Keltics, it'll be a scrum down to PEI.
So Jack, I know that you've been heavily involved with Rugby Nova Scotia and the Keltics, both on the men's and women's side, for quite some time. But very recently, that big announcement, you were brought on board as the head coach of the Canadian U20 squad. You've already seen them play some games in the Tri-Nations Cup, but a big match coming up this Saturday at the Wanderers grounds against England. I know it's going to be a wonderful atmosphere. What are you looking forward to most?
I think the girls are just dying to get back on the field. We've had, it'll be about 8 days since our last game, and we've got to see England. We've got to do a ton of review, so we're just excited to get back on and have another crack at essentially what is one of the world's best teams. And to be honest, we've been able. I thought in that first game we were certainly competitive. Well,
you were, and I think as the game wore on, Canada seemed to get a little bit stronger in the latter stages of that second half. And I know that myself and Brian Day, who was doing the analysis with me, we commented that we couldn't wait to see the two teams hook up again in Halifax.
Yeah, and I think you've been lucky to have Brian Ray here. He's an excellent commentator. Obviously, he's the editor of America's Rugby News as well. He's an excellent person to have as your sidekick. He knows a lot more than I do, so good thing to have.
He's tremendous. He's perfect for the old adage: the play-by-play guy tells you what's happening, and the analyst tells you why. And Brian definitely knows a lot about the why, Jack.
Yeah, he's excellent, and he's also a good official, which is great. I know you mentioned it in your commentary last week, but he's one of our best officials in the province. So it's nice to see not only from his rugby knowledge but also from his officiating. I think he was fairly accurate in some of his comments, saying that we certainly quickened up our pace in the second half. So that's something that we're hoping to try and start with.
So we're about halfway through this first half. 2 20-minute halves here at this U18 men's level in this 2018 Eastern Canadian Rugby Championship. I'm Scott Squires. Pleased to be joined by special guest Jack Hanratty, the coach of the Canadian U20 women's side. As mentioned, they'll be playing the U20 England squad this Saturday at the Wanderers grounds, the conclusion of the Tri-Nations Cup. And we will be there live streaming at 4 o'clock Atlantic time. If you can't make it out to the Wanderers grounds, you can use this very same link and watch that great game on Friday. So what you're seeing here, Jack, you've been here a couple minutes watching this game. PEI has had some pretty good phases. They've had some pretty good push toward the Nova Scotia goal. Nova Scotia has defended well, but they haven't really been able to get anything going offensively yet. Maybe just a little critique of what you're seeing right now from both sides, first from PEI.
Yeah, I think PEI certainly have the momentum. They've been quite direct with ball in hand. That's a lovely little interchange play as well, and they might have an opportunity here. That's good first phase defence by the Celtics, so it's an important thing that they don't let anyone in on first phase. It's probably one of the easiest things to defend, so everyone's got their roles and responsibilities. So PEI just being direct, they've used this tactic of the chip behind the Celtics a number of times, and the Celtics haven't really been able to deal with it, and this once again they haven't been able to deal with it, and it'll be a scrum to PEI just inside the 22.
Now, of course, I know that you don't have your coach's hat on. You said that you're enjoying just being able to watch some rugby. But if you could put your coach's hat on for a second, you could bring the guys over to the sideline. What one or two pieces of advice would you to give them to maybe try and get them to deal with what's happening tactically?
Yeah, I think they just need to settle into the game, Nova Scotia. Basically, what's happened is they've managed to keep PEI out after a lot of pressure, but they haven't been able to establish their own momentum. So even maybe kicking it down, getting into the PEI half, and then building from there, and just relaxing into the game a bit more.
And it's interesting that you mentioned PEI using that that chip kick and the bit of the kicking game. That was something that actually a fan of England, because we had a lot of interaction on social media with the English fans. They are fantastic. And a fan after the England-Canada game, in a very complimentary way, said that Canada played very well, but what he felt was perhaps one of the bigger differences was that England was really proficient at using the kicking game and Canada not so much.
England have always been known to be a kicking team, and when they have such experience as Brian Ray mentioned, so many international rugby players in the Six Nations that played this year, they just are so experienced in those situations.
Nice run there down that far sideline by Grant McAdam for the Abbeys from PEI, but again, Nova Scotia just round things up on defense and are finding a way to steal the ball away from Prince Edward Island. That's probably 3 or 4 times they've done it here in the first 12 or 13 minutes of this first half. So while they maybe haven't been able to get the offensive side going, they've shown some good energy and some good anticipation actually getting into some situations and stealing some balls.
Absolutely. I think if PEI are to work on this momentum, I think they need to get one in just before halftime.
Now, talking about rugby in Nova Scotia, of course, Nova Scotia PEI playing, but this tournament being hosted in Nova Scotia, you are involved with Rugby Nova Scotia. Something we've had a chance to talk about is the growth of the game in Nova Scotia. Gino Carew was on the other day from Rugby Nova Scotia mentioning how excited they are to finally get rugby programs in junior highs. There's the rookie rugby program for, the very smallest of the grassroots rugby player. Where do you see the game in Nova Scotia right now, and where do you see it going over the next few years?
I think one really just cool thing is that it's right in the shop window. So having 2 games in the Wanderers grounds and having that publicity, having this here, having the best U20 women's sides in the world being here, and then looking around today, I thought it was a special moment for me when I just saw all the activity going on from all over Eastern Canada, and that's something that once it's in the shop window, once it's noticeable, it's always something that is great encouragement for players.
And it's really neat as well. We mentioned the interaction we got during the international game from the fans in England. We've been getting a lot of interaction. Look at this run. And just getting hauled down by the shirt. And does he get in? I believe he did. That's Parker Cameron. We saw him. He was dangerous at the Atlantics for PEI. And a great run there. The Nova Scotia defender almost got him at the end, dragging down the jersey of the kit. But Parker Cameron would not be denied, and PEI's pressure finally pays off with a try.
Yeah, I think Parker Cameron is as you said, he was certainly noticeable against everyone at the Atlantic Championships. We as an Atlantic organisation certainly noticed him. He was on our long list for the Atlantic Under-19s this year, and will be, in my opinion, for next year's Atlantic Under-19s, an important player for them.
So we'll see this conversion attempt. And that's something that's actually really impressed me this week. We're talking U16, U18 levels, both on the men's and women's side. there's been some really good kickers here. I've seen some conversion attempts made that have just really made my jaw drop. So that's kind of neat to see too at this level.
Yeah, it's certainly a skill that we need to practice in Canada. Even if you look at some of the high level U20s, it's a really, really important thing that we need to develop as a region, but as a country as well. So it's nice to see the improvement in the all round kicking game. So
the conversion attempt from Arsenault goes a little bit wide. But the try on the board, PEI 5, Nova Scotia no score, as we are making our way. My unofficial Samsung phone time tells me there's about 4 minutes left in this half. And as I look way off in the distance, I see some rain clouds, but I think those are moving the other way, Jack. I think those are the ones that kind of blew through here earlier.
I don't even know anymore, Scott. Like it's so inconsistent, and every one of the under 20 Canadian players are saying, "Is this what always happens?"
It kind of is. I joked earlier. I said, welcome to Atlantic Canada. So here's Nova Scotia now. Let's see what they can get going on offense. Nice little dipping, darting move there from Justin McClellan. He does a good job releasing it back. Now let's see if Nova Scotia can work it. They usually have some good line speed, and a bit of a bobble there. Now that's going to be a knock on, and we'll see what the call is. Wet conditions, Jack. You know, I mentioned earlier with all the rain, the turf, great drainage, but definitely the turf's going to be a little wet. It's humid, so you know the skin's going to be a little damp from perspiration. So it can create some pretty tricky situations when you're trying to grab that ball.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real excuse. That's 2 or 3 times now that Nova Scotia have got their hands on the ball and just haven't been able to keep it more than 1 or 2 phases. So I think that's an issue as of right now.
Spoken like a true coach, Jack Hanratty.
Yeah, high standards.
Well, and you know what? That's what you got to have. And even I, over the last number of years, have seen incredible growth in the game right across Atlantic Canada. There are quality sides right from Newfoundland and Labrador to Prince Edward Island, of course, the Nova Scotia Celtics, and New Brunswick as well. So the game really seems to be catching on. And as you said, having this type of event where, you know, there's rugby players all over the Annapolis Valley right now and all over, certainly here in Wolfville, and it's front and center. And you know, it's nice to see, and I truly think the game is only going to grow. And to your point, having the Wanderers grounds there to showcase not only the Canadian Premier League, the soccer team that are coming, the Wanderers, but absolutely rugby as well. I think it's great times ahead for rugby and soccer in this region.
Yeah, I think having the Wanderers grounds itself just allows for high performance sport to be here, and I think that's such a plus point for everybody and for the activity of Halifax and Nova Scotia. So if you don't mind, we'll get you to stick around during the half. We'll chat to you a little more about the Canadian squad and what your preparations have been like leading up to your next fixture on Saturday. I hope England aren't watching.
No, we've blocked the stream and all of their devices. Yeah. So a nice little charge forward. This is the deepest that Nova Scotia's been now into PEI territory, but that play, see what the call was there.
Yeah, just a penalty there for the arriving player not releasing. So it's going to be a penalty, and this is the first time, as you said, Scott, this is the first time that they've even remotely been close to their end. So let's see if Nova Scotia can keep ball in hand and if they can punch one in just before the half.
So the nice little kick ahead gets the ball to go out for touch, so it'll be a line out. A little bit deeper for Nova Scotia. Let's see what they can do with this set piece here. Going high to get it. Good job receiving that line out. Now they'll try to maul. Let's see how far Nova Scotia might be able to push it. Well, it looks like a standoff right there, so Nova Scotia decides to get the ball out and move it. And there's a good run. Pushing forward, that was Will Keynes. Now almost in between a ruck and a maul. They don't know if they want to go down to ground or up in the air. But Nova Scotia
I agree with that, Scott. Yeah, it was a fairly messy play there. So it'll be they'll just need to solidify and maintain possession, which they haven't really been able to do.
Here's a good run again forward. Is that Keynes again in there? He's trying to put the team on his back. He gets it into the hands of one of his mates. Look at the good help from behind. Trying to push him forward, but recovery by the PEI side as the Abbeys trying to keep the Celtics out. There's some directing of traffic. Good look at it there. And just a bit of a bobble. Don't know if that ball went forward or not.
Yeah, so it did go forward, but PEI were offside, so it will be a penalty, and they've gone for the scrum here, which is a good decision. You're tying in the eight forwards of PEI, so if you have a good set piece move, it's not a bad option to go for.
So not a lot of time left in this first half. Just the one score to speak of, and it was a try scored a little while ago by Prince Edward Island. So Nova Scotia, let's see what they can get out of this scrum here as we see, looks like the official having a word with Evan Borden. And now coming over as well, it's number 23, James Davey. So I'm not sure what they're talking about here.
James Davies going over as the captain. Obviously the referee's not happy with something. It could be a blood replacement, could be a head knock. Just the referee has asked for a replacement, so Evan will go off just to get a check and a look.
The other thing that kind of astonishes me a little bit, and I guess I see it in a lot of the different sports that I cover, but just the sheer girth and size of some of these young rugby players.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really something to see. Some very physically strong and physically imposing young men.
Well, Meal Hall at Acadia is certainly an entertaining one to be at.
Yeah, I don't know if Meal Hall's ever had such a shock. I know they're used to dealing with football and rugby players, but certainly not this many rugby players with these types of appetites when you're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-olds. So here's Nova Scotia now, trying to work through a few phases here, and as you said, Jack, maintain a little control, which can a lot of times give you some confidence. When you start working through some phases and you start having 2-3 minutes of possession, that only helps build your confidence, plus it keeps your opponent on defense, and there's nothing tires you out more than chasing an opponent.
Yeah, you're dead right, and I think this momentum swing is an important one for Nova Scotia, but one thing they'll have to do is make sure that they don't go in with 0 on the scoreboard, which is an important one.
So we see Nova Scotia. There's a good look at the lads right there. It's a warm, muggy, humid one out there. I think these teams will be glad when they wind this day up and they can go back and I was going to say Meal Hall will probably be closed, so they won't have a chance to hit that again.
Yeah. The chocolate milk counter has been needing refilling every 4 seconds by the looks of it.
So it's scrum down very deep in the the Prince Edward Island side of the pitch. Scrum half Justin McClellan gives the tap. He rolls it in. Yeah, the ball right there. Can they get it out? They do. There's a quick out now. Will Keynes. He's been good in this last few minutes here, pushing Nova Scotia forward. And a bobble, but Nova Scotia recovers. Great job there by McClellan. Look at this run into the end zone, and Nova Scotia has gotten through, and they've broken the 0 off the scoreboard. And they're going to feel much better about themselves after, for much of this half, they were kind of on their heels and being pushed back. But a momentum swing indeed has seen Nova Scotia pushed the other way, and they get the try. And now, pending the conversion, they could take the lead with only perhaps a few seconds left here in the half.
I think Nova Scotia would be very lucky with that. Justin bobbled the ball himself, but referee deemed that it went backwards. He was the only one to play on, which is, play to the referee's whistle. He picked it up and ran under the post. Good opportunistic try from what was originally a mistake by Justin.
Well, and you're right, because sometimes when that happens, there's that momentary split second where everyone kind of freezes and expecting, oh, that's a knock on or the ref's going to blow the whistle. But as you said, play to the whistle. And when Justin got that ball, he just saw an opening and he was gone like a shot through the hole and got the touch. So now he gets to convert his own try. Pretty good field position here. And after that thunder and lightning storm that blew through here, nary a gust of wind. It's very peaceful and calm here wind-wise. So here's the conversion attempt. McClellan gets well under that one. He could have cleared a crossbar that was 5 more feet. But somehow he missed.
Yeah, I mean, he took a long time. He took a big, long run up, and sometimes it's just easy to keep the head down and follow through. And
I'm not sure if he might have lost his footing just a little bit, but typically when you see a ball go that high, that much arch on it, I don't know if he intended to get underneath it that much, but that was definitely a high arching ball. So that ends up being the last play of this first half. Prince Edward Island came out strong. They were really working the ball well. They had Nova Scotia on their heels. Nova Scotia recovered a couple of times, prevented PEI from getting points. PEI finally broke through. got a try, but late in the half, literally in the waning seconds, it's Justin McClellan who breaks through, and we are tied 5-5 after one half of play. So, Jack, go back to your time with Team Canada. You know, in the short amount of time.
10 minutes ago, Scott.
Yeah, I was going to say, it really seems that way. What's the experience been like so far? I'm sure it's probably been a whirlwind getting up to speed on everything that's involved with the international side of things and Rugby Canada as a larger organization. But what's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's been excellent. I mean, I was recently with the U18 men's program, so it's just an entirely different beast. So just the organisation and trying to appoint a good quality staff, which I couldn't be more thankful of the level of staff that we have. We've from everything from video analysts to coaches to physio to S&C to manager. Everything has been absolutely fantastic, and we've really enjoyed each other's company as well, which is nice. And we're continuing learning about the players. The players are continuing to learn about us, but we're really excited about Saturday.
And I'll tell you, a number of very good players on your U20 Canadian women's side, but can't say enough about Sophie DeGoody. She is like watching a Gretzky in hockey or a Jordan in basketball, and by that I mean when you see her play, she has the ability to take over a game and to put her team on her back and make her teammates better and to get them to kind of follow what she's doing. What I've seen from her, she is just so fun to watch. What's she like to coach?
Well, it's interesting. We always knew that she was like that as a player. The one thing that we didn't know about was what she was like. What I didn't know about was what she's like as a leader. So Sophie was an obvious choice for the captaincy. People look up to her. She is one of those leaders that not only speaks well, but she also leads from the front and leads the charge, does the hard work. And she's somebody that is, I think, has got a long career being a Canadian international.
And what about some of the Nova Scotia players that are on the side? I know a big eruption here from the fans the other night when local Nova Scotia product got called into the game. But what does that mean to you? I know that it's all about getting the best players, but what's it like when you know that you can have a local Nova Scotia player playing at an international level?
I think, and I when I was appointed, I told all the Nova Scotia girls that it's probably going to be harder for them to make the team due to the fact that it's I have to judge them a little bit harder, I think. So what was really nice was when all the Celtics players were well up to the standard. That was a really important thing for me. I certainly didn't want to just be picking favourites, and we made sure that the selectors were all in agreement. I wouldn't even suggest my own players, but it was a really nice feeling when Amelia and Annie and Harley were coming onto the field, and not only Acadia but all of Nova Scotia were cheering for them.
Yeah, they definitely were, and it was a pretty special moment. It's really nice to see, and I guess it just speaks to the level of talent across the country when, you might expect the usual suspects to stack that team, right? Quebec, British Columbia, Ontario. But when you've got quality of players in Atlantic Canada that can get recognized and have a chance to play for rugby in Canada, I think it speaks to how the game has grown across the country. To that point, Jack, where do you see the game going, in Canada in terms, I know now that it's part of the Olympics, that's a big thing, but, what are some things that you'd like to see happen other than what you've talked about, being on display, being in the storefront window, as you say, but what would a couple of things you'd like to see to really see the game grow and explode even more on a national level?
Yeah, I think it's just more competition. These girls had just arrived back from nationals. They've all played against each other, so I think what's really important is that they play against each other. They play against the highest level, and the one thing that now I'm in place, the next selection piece for us will be U Sport, and of course the U Sport Championships taking place, as you've mentioned, during the week here in Acadia, so I don't have to travel too far to come down and watch the country's best universities, but that'll be that's the next goal for us, is to see what next squad looks like.
And you mentioned U Sport, and it makes me think of course, Atlantic University sport teams. Acadia hosting here. Acadia broke, I believe it was a 16 or 17-year string of St. FX winning the women's championship a couple of years ago. St. FX has since come back. But big news, not only for Atlantic University sport, but for St. FX Joe Alfonso is coming back for one more year, and that's incredible. And I believe she's a two-time All-Canadian, an MVP. She's won championships. What is your favorite part about Joe's game?
Yeah, Joe, we were lucky enough to have Joe play for the Nova Scotia Senior Women's Silver Medals national winning team a couple of weeks ago out in Saskatoon, and it's great that she's back. But the name that some people are forgetting is Olivia de Merchant is back. So not only is Joe Alfonso back, Olivia de Merchant being back, she's already got 2 World Cups, and that's a frightening level of ability that's coming back to Mike Kavanagh's side.
I was going to say a wealth of riches for Coach Kavanagh down there, and I know the other teams in the Atlantic University Sport Conference, Acadia, Prince Edward Island, and St. Mary's are probably going, oh, okay, well, let's see what we need to do here. So we just saw a penalty kick. You don't see that a whole lot, but Nova Scotia successful on the 3-point penalty kick. So
I think an important decision, good leadership there. It's a draw. This is going to be a tight game. PEI are certainly up for this game, and I think will have a look at taking 3 points themselves at times, or even Arsenault going for the quick touch, and he's the danger man.
Jordan Arsenault, the 9 for PEI, so dangerous. Sometimes you get him a little bit of space in the open field, and he can burn you. But now it's PEI using that kind of straight-ahead power game. They get it up quickly. They'll try to get a maul to form here, see how far they can push it down the field. They pick up a few meters there. In the middle there, trying to stopgap. That was big Mike McEachern for Nova Scotia. Big body for sure for the Celtics. But PEI keeps pushing forward. Blake Jerkowski picks up a meter or two.
And they do have an advantage for a penalty, so PEI will try something now to go in, and they're very close.
They're right down on the line.
So the referee has said that it was a knock-on, but they are going to come back for the penalty, and Arsenault is looking to take this quick.
So Arsenault, just enough time. Nova Scotia kind of gets reset on the defensive end. Let's see what Arsenault does with it. Kind of hangs the ball out in front of him there, trying to feign that he was going to make a pass.
A brave man, a scrum half, tapping it and running straight into the big forwards in Nova Scotia.
And the runner there for Prince Edward Island almost got wishboned, as I think a tackler on each side from Nova Scotia had a leg and almost split him in two, but he's all right. Look at this play now down into the corner. Nice run from Mugridge for PEI. They are threatening down close to the touchline in the corner, but they work it back further into the middle of the field. Quick dive forward, and they're in for the try, just like that. Lightning quick. Just a quick little dive, and PEI in for the try. So Nova Scotia just got the penalty kick a few moments ago, so PEI answers right back with a try.
Yeah, I think it was just very good opportunistic. They've been looking dangerous every time they've got into the Nova Scotia area, so it took them a long time to punch that first one in, so they'll be delighted to do it so early on in this second half.
So didn't get the number, but as you just saw,
I'd say it was Arsenault. By the look of the dive to the line, I think the scrum half might have dived into the corner.
So a player from PEI could very well be Arsenault. He's down. He's got a hand up to his face now, being tended to along the sideline. And in the meantime, PEI has got to get lined up here for a fairly long conversion attempt from off to the side. I'm Scott Squires, special guest with me for this U18 men's game is the coach of Canada's U20 women's team, Jack Hanratty. And Jack, I guess outside the Tri-Nations Cup and other things that you're doing, what are a couple of the next big things on the calendar for you and for Team Canada?
Well, we'll go away. I go away on Tuesday back to men's rugby. So I'm away with the Atlantic Rock team as we go to the semi-final of the Canadian Rugby Championship against the Wolfpack out in Calgary. So that will be the final weekend. So it would be really nice to end the summer with the CRC National Championship for the senior men's. And I'm certainly looking forward to it, but looking forward to it in the distance. It's all for me. It's all about Saturday and getting the best out of the 25 top athletes that we have with us right now.
Now, look, I know that you never like to look too far ahead, and you kind of have to take each day as it comes. looking ahead at the potential weather on Saturday, it could be a sloppy track. Does that change your strategy at all and how you approach the game?
Yeah, I heard the rumours. It looks to be fairly wet, but Scott, you know as well as I do that predicting weather in Nova Scotia, it could be a beautiful 35-degree day.
That is absolutely never truer words spoken. Good run forward there by Jackson Moore for PEI. So 10-8 is your score. So both teams have had their moments here where they've kind of dictated play. But right now, it's the Abbeys from PEI leading the Keltics of Nova Scotia by a score of 10-8. And we'll have a scrum just inside the 22-meter line on the PEI side of the pitch.
It was good chase there from the Celtics at their after the kickoff, and interesting to see that the ball has gone to the Abbeys rather than the Celtics after that forward pass.
That ball off to the side, down to ground, and that goes there. That could be a case of a slippery ball as it went right between the legs of the PEI player.
He's done well, Parker Cameron, to just get past the line, which is a massive thing. PEI will be trying to relieve some pressure here. And again, it was bobbled.
This kick coming over towards the line, but it's caught right there. Nice work by Alex Otto. Long pass over, bounces along the grass, and I think that was knocked on as it went off the shin and kind of went forward a couple of feet. So we're about a little over 8 minutes into this second half. A low-scoring affair. Some of that to do with the conditions, of course.
It's a bit sloppy, and the preparation, of course, with the thunder and lightning. It meant that neither team could get into their flow just before a game. So what happened there was PEI kicked it clear, and the players were just ahead of them. So we've come back. The Celtics team had a choice whether to go for the full penalty or a scrum, and they've taken the scrum right in deep into the PEI area.
They are indeed just outside the 5-meter line, probably about 7-8 meters from the PEI goal. That scrum getting down pretty low, starts to wheel around, broke down immediately, and then the referee blows the whistle as that scrum really started to disintegrate. Trying to listen into some of the chatter going on out there on the field. This is going to come right at the tent, I think, Jack. Just over our broadcast position here as number 15 for Nova Scotia, Mike McGilvery, watches it sail over his head. And these players in these wet, humid, sticky conditions look like they've been through the ringer, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'd say the dorms will be very fresh this evening.
And that lineup goes up by everybody. Then it gets tapped to the back line, picked up quickly there by Arsenault. And now PEI will look to move it forward. And again, it gets bobbled. So we're seeing a lot more of that in the last few minutes. Just both these teams not being able to get a good, tight grip on the ball.
Or a good, tight grip on the game, it seems. It's been very back and forth right now. And nobody is really controlling the game.
That's a very good point. There's no team really asserting their dominance right now. And this might go to the field on the other side as that kick goes out for touch and then some from Parker Cameron. Interesting as well. You know, not only is this a learning experience for the players as they go through the tournament, but the officials are always learning as well. I know that they get together after matches and go over film and have a post-mortem.
Yeah, it's massively important. If the referees don't get better, like the players, there's really the game won't get better itself. So that's a huge development piece. Every time these players leave, it's video, it's meetings, making sure that the next time they go out, it's a better game, and it's the same for the officials.
Good strong tackle over there as wrapping up his man was Josh McKenzie. And there another bobble, and that's what we've seen a lot of. Just, I don't know if it's a combination of the ball being wet, but you almost saw there Stephen Smallwood was looking up the field before he had actually taken that ball into his chest to make sure that he had secured it.
Yeah, it looks beautiful out there, but it certainly is slippy. They just got to slow it down, just got to concentrate, change the way you're holding your hands, and off you go.
What about yourself? What's the worst conditions you ever recall playing in?
Rotten Sunday morning in Dublin, Ireland. I remember shivering, and I think everybody was just. We wanted to call the game. It was a final, and I don't think by the end of it anyone wanted to win.
You didn't hesitate in recalling that Sunday morning in Dublin at all. It seemed to pop to your mind immediately.
I remember Ashburn were the team that we played as well, and God, it was terrible.
Not one of your fonder playing memories, Jack.
And I mean, the players here, to be fair, the conditions have gone from an unbelievable scorching hot summer to a thunder and lightning storm. So I think they've adapted quite well. Now, it's been quite sloppy in this game, but they've certainly adapted quite well.
10-8 is the score. Just a 2-point game, but points have been at a premium, no question about it. We've had 2 tries from PEI. We've had a try and a penalty kick from Nova Scotia, and that's your 10-8 score. By my unofficial Samsung phone time, we're about 13 minutes into this second 20. PEI trying to make a diagonal run up. Good tackle there is coming over to close it down.
James Davey. Yeah, he's a good tackler. He's also an experienced rugby player. Has had a few injuries over the last year, so it's great to see him just on the field.
So play kind of bogs down just in front of us, far side of the field. Players rolling over one another now, and again, it's just kind of these teams come together and they're not sure, are we going to ruck it, are we going to maul it, what are we going to do? No, we're just going to have the referee blow the whistle. So this will be a chance now for Justin McClellan. And
it's a great kick.
That's a great kick indeed, off into the bushes. Now, the only thing is that means that someone's got to go into those bull rushes into the bog over there and retrieve that ball, Jack.
Yeah, I'm just glad it hasn't been me over the last few weeks.
I saw this yesterday. I believe it was New Brunswick, but there was a team over in the far sideline, and one of their players was, in civilian clothes, in crutches, and a ball went over, and this young man with crutches actually hopped in to the bull rushes on the far side. You can see how high they are on your screen there, and at one point all I could see were the tips of his crutches up in the air, but about 5 seconds later out came the ball.
You can take the man out of rugby, but you can't take the rugby
well,
out of
you
the
know
man.
What? 100%. Now can Nova Scotia get it over the line here and jump into the lead? It's getting to that point of this second half where you think that if Nova Scotia can score, they might be able to hang on. That pass a bit short. Picked up well there, though. Here's a try. Could it be? Over the line, touching it down, and Nova Scotia goes ahead. Mike McGilvery with the great effort. It looked initially like that ball might bounce into no man's land, but McGilvery does a great chance, finds the opening diagonally to the right corner, and now Nova Scotia, Jack, has a chance to nurse this lead and to grind out the last few minutes here and get a win.
Yeah, I mean, it was an important score. They've only scored 2 tries in the game, and both have come from just bouncing the ball onto the ground. But you got to pay tribute to the opportunistic stuff of continuing to play, not let anything stop. That's a big important thing for them. So they'll nurse the clock. I don't know how long you have, Scott, but I'm sure the referee is the only man who really knows. But certainly this win is really important. So let's see what they can if they can nurse this all the way down.
Unofficially again, because we don't know what as you said, the match official has the time in his hands. He may add on whatever for injury time, whatever he wants to do for added time. I've got about 4.5 minutes, very unofficially left.
You see the coaches trying to get messages on to the players. The biggest thing they have to do is solidify and catch the kickoff. It's the biggest thing they have to do. And PEI will have a bit of confidence. They'll get up there. They've done it twice before. They'll get up there ready to try and steal this game again.
So let's see. Not an easy look here for McClellan, really sizing up those goalposts. No wind to deal with. So he is locked in. He's looking at those goalposts almost like he's going to shoot lasers out of his eyes. And, well, he certainly had the leg, but just not the right direction as he pushes it fairly far to the left. So the try is good. The conversion is not. And now we're looking at a 3-point game. So how likely is it that if PEI can get the ball that they might want to look at try and get some kind of kick toward goal here?
I think a draw will probably do nothing for either of the teams. So I think both will be going for broke to make sure that they win this game. That's exactly what Nova Scotia didn't want. Was all they had to do was catch the kickoff. It's one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, Scott. As soon as you score a try, you've got the momentum, you've got the team on the ropes. If you drop that ball, it's no good.
And you're absolutely right, because we've seen that in rugby. When you get scored on, you have to kick the ball back to the team that just scored. And if you can catch it and score again, all of a sudden that momentum really starts to almost steamroll your opponent over. But in this case now, a little bit of glimmer of light for this PEI squad. Arsenault, he'll put it in. Look at him trying to find it, and now he'll have it. Quick pass over. Let's see if they can work it. They might have a bit of an overlap on the right-hand side, but no, they don't. Nova Scotia closes the gap pretty quickly. Important now for Nova Scotia to push back against PEI. Just a 3-point game. Coming up with it was Thomas Shea. He releases, picked up quickly. Arsenault gets it back again. Nice little move there by Grant McAdam. He faked the pass, made a cut to the inside. Again, PEI not at all wanting any kind of a ruck to form. Anytime that ball goes to ground, they're releasing it and getting it up quickly. Trying to keep Nova Scotia a little disorganized here on defense. Now they'll take it to the corner. And a great tackle over there. Wow. That is a super tackle by number 24, Alex Otto. His man was breaking away from him, and he was able to wrap his arms around him and toss him down to the ground. That's a great open field tackle.
That's a really important tackle by Alex Otto. We saw him with his big kicking boot earlier today, but that's an important, really important one. They're deep in the area here, so let's see if Nova Scotia can do what they couldn't do, which was just keep the ball and possibly kick it down the field and make PEI come from deep. They've had some humdingers this year, though. This is the third time that they've been playing in a competition, and it's always been a one-score game.
So a Nova Scotia scrum here, very important for them to can hook this ball out of there and control it. PEI pushing forward on that scrum, but it's Nova Scotia who picks it out of there. They'll try to run it forward. That's a pretty good run of about 4 meters. Any amount of space that they can get is good space. This kick up into the air, and it's caught by Arsenault. Now watch what he does with it. Look at Arsenault go. He kicks it down now. Can Nova Scotia handle it cleanly? Remember, that ball is slippery. Kind of slippery conditions out there. Going down to the turf, that was number 15 for Nova Scotia, McGilvery. And another good tackle as PEI got to that ball, and then the referee blows the whistle. I think we've got a Nova Scotia player down as Dawson Legier is slow to get up. So nail-biting time right here. Both of these teams have kind of gone back and forth like a pendulum, taking control from one to the other, but no team has really been able to assert themselves for a long period of time. And because of that, we're down to the final few seconds here, Jack, and PEI could very well steal this one away.
Yeah, and they will have the last chance, and Nova Scotia have had 2 chances now to end the game or to take control of it, so PEI will have the last opportunity.
So again, final 10 seconds, but that's just my unofficial regular 20-minute halftime. So by my count, the 20 minutes of regular halftime has expired, and we're now into extra time. So we'll see how much added time there is. We don't get a signal of it, and here's trouble! And another great tackle, but the ball pops into the arms of a PEI player. It's loose on the ground, a mad scramble for it. Nova Scotia trying to push it out to touch. Did they get there? Kind of hard to see from our vantage point over into that far corner. I kind of have to peek at the monitor to see if I can spy what's going on. But that was some frantic rugby for about 10 seconds as the ball seemed to be just pinballing left and right and bouncing around.
So penalty PEI, they will get another opportunity. The referee thought that the ball had gone out, but this is a penalty, and this is again the last chance. Nova Scotia thought they'd stolen it and thought they'd won the game.
So gut check time for both of these teams. Trevor Whalen starts it off, takes it, charges right into the line, trying to get there. Can he bull his way in, trying to get some support from behind? And Nova Scotia, I think they're celebrating. Has the referee blown the whistle? He has! By the skin of their teeth, Jack Hanratty. Nova Scotia with PEI pushing to the very last second, literally hang on and get the victory over PEI.
Yeah, and I think there's PEI are particularly upset about this one, but gutsy defence there in the end by the Keltics, and that's a big win as we go into playoff times over the next couple of days.
Well, I'll tell you, when big Trevor Whalen decided to bull his way through, I thought he was going to get there. You got to credit the Nova Scotia defense being able to recover and get support from behind to push Whalen back.
That's the big risk when you take a tap penalty right there. There's so many players in front. All they have to do is get in on the ball and make sure that the referee cannot see a try being awarded. It wasn't. There was a knock on there, and the game is over.
So your final score, a very good game to finish off day 2 at the Eastern Canadian Rugby Championship. U18 men, Atlantic teams come together and they clash, and a clash it was. But it's Nova Scotia, the Keltics, who hang on in the end. The teams shake hands. They will live to fight another day, and you know that they're going to meet again at some point. When will it be? Well, who knows? We'll have to keep an eye on the schedule. But the final in this one, the Keltics from Nova Scotia hang on. They defeat the Abbeys of Prince Edward Island by a score of 13-10. Jack Hanratty, I want to thank you very much for hanging out and spending some time. What a pleasure and an honor to have you on the broadcast. Really excited to be there on Saturday. Wish you lots of luck against England. I know there'll be lots of folks over in England checking it out on Twitter, but we'll see you on Saturday, and best of luck.
Thanks, Scott.
Real pleasure. All right, my friend Scott Squires, on behalf of Jack Hanratty and my broadcast partner as well, Brian Fisher, Scott Squires saying so long, good night. Final score once again, Celtics 13, Abbeys 10. See you tomorrow.